It is the last death lineup for a couple weeks here. Brian and I are going to talk about the latest in Warriors hoop, but just a heads up, we are not going to be back next week because of Thanksgiving, so we'll be back in a couple weeks. Neither is Thompson and Clark. Thompson and Clark is also taking the week off, but because of football is all the time, Rod and I will definitely be up both of these next weekends for 49ers football, so there will be some content in this feed. Brian, we finally lost a game to the Clippers, but worse, we lost De'Anthony Melton for the entire season. This is one of the stranger injuries as far as one that ends a season, because the early reporting on the injury was that it was a sprain, and then you didn't hear anything about it for a little while. And my thought was, oh, he tore it. It's got to be a tear, because why else have they been so mum on the status? And I guess it really wasn't that bad, but just it was something that he decided that he would rather just get fixed than try and play on it, possibly because of times he's had knee injuries before, I'm guessing. But yeah, it was a weird thing. Now he's out for the season, and when he got hurt, it felt like he wasn't going to be gone for that long.
Yeah, was that the Mavericks one where he went down against the Mavs? That was so. The injury, right?
And he even finished. Didn't he finish the game?
No, I think he came out. I could be wrong about that. I'm forgetting, but yeah, that was a weird one because he got hurt a little bit earlier into the year. I know we're still early into the year, but a couple games earlier where he missed some time, and it just seemed like there were stories that came out about him coming to the Warriors, not 100% specifically because of, but a big part of Rick Celebrini. He came to the Warriors because of, he trusts their medical staff. And so when he started missing games super early, I was just like, okay, we're just being really careful and cautious and patient with how he has his injuries. So when he went down against the Mavericks, I thought we'd see him again. I didn't think anything was torn just because, okay, he already missed a couple games at the start, came back. Okay, we decided that he was a starter, which is something we said in this podcast before the start of the year. It made sense that he would be the 2 guard. And then he goes down again, and now it's for good. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting the tear. I wasn't expecting a season-ending injury. But here we are.
That is because he was going to start, and because he was going to probably close a lot of games and maybe help out defensively. You put him and Wiggs in the same lineup, and then, we kind of created this one. Wiggs, Melton, and Gary Payton in the same lineup, just lock everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't have that option, which is a bit of a buzzkill for the team, because as currently constructed, we are now, I think, 17 games into the season. So a lot of the small sample size stuff, it's technically still there, but you can actually see some of these lineups and get a big picture reason of why they're working. But man, to take him out when we really were still waiting to see what the power of him with Steph was going to be like. And now the Steve Kerr has turned to Lindy Waters to start with Steph. So that's going to be a bit of a wait and see. Lindsey Waters has some really good games, and then he has some games where it's like, this dude's not doing anything. And unfortunately, B-Pods, he's Draymond blamed it on the media. Draymond said it's because y'all gave him too many expectations, and that's why he hasn't been playing well. But so that is one thing that they have to figure out. And I'll ask you this question in a bit, sort of ideas for a trade. But otherwise, I know you're still catching up on some of the games, but without Melton, how big of a hit is this?
I mean, how many games has the guy even played? I bet we could pull up his basketball reference and how many games we played.
Less than half, I think.
Less than half. I think it's a tough blow, but not in the sense we never really got to see it materialize. So we don't really know what we're missing out on that much. He did some really good things. He brought the idea of the 2-way guard, but man, he would take some crazy shots sometimes. And
he was not shy.
Very not shy of taking a shot. And so I think he can, his duties can be replaced per se, but I mean, yeah, you a two-way guard. Like, you think of and how is that opposing guard. De'Anthony Melton do that to an extent, but also provide stuff on the offensive end that GP2 can't provide. So I didn't. Do we know for sure if they're going with Lindy? Like, okay, so I'm watching the Clippers game. They started with Lindy. Did they start with Lindy again in Atlanta?
Yes. And Steve Kerr, after the Melton injury, he said that they're going to give Lindy a shot at playing there. I think that was like a subliminal at B Pods, kind of like, get your game back, buddy, because this should be your spot. Like, you should be insulted that the 15th man on the roster is now taking your starting position. I sort of sense that. But yeah, Steve said that he's going to get the first shot.
Yeah. Man, yeah, that's the thing. That's where Melton going down hurts. It's because he did make sense as a starting guard. And, we talked about 3 decisions with Pods, with Buddy, with Melton. And Buddy, pure offense, no defense, maybe not in the starting lineup. B-Pods, too small. Like, not a terrible defender, but just a little too small. And then Melton kind of made sense. And I guess we hadn't seen Lindy when we were talking about that. I wonder if Moody's still in play. Like, I still think the only frustrating thing is, like, when I watch Moody and Kuminga, like, have they gotten better this year? Like, is it just, are we just watching the same stuff? I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but it feels like Pods is in his sophomore slump, and then Kuminga and Moody, I can't say they've gotten better, but I'm not saying they're regressing, but I can't say they've gotten better from the previous year.
I think Kuminga is more confident in his shot. He's more confident in his ability, but there's still stuff with his dribble, with his gather. He gets the ball slapped out of his hands a lot. He's, screaming for fouls when he's getting stripped in the lane. The athleticism is insane. It's there when he can actually get to his spots. The 3-point shot looks okay. It's really the thing that he's taken a step back with is just the free throw shooting. His free throw shooting is terrible.
Like 60%, right?
Yeah, and there's no rhythm to it. I think Moody's Moody. If Moody's open, he's going to hit the shot. If Moody has someone who's really good defending him, he's like stuck in quicksand and can't get out, and then they have to take him out.
Unfortunately, that's not good because he's like just all right, in my opinion. Like, like the next, he was in his draft class. Like, some people had him as high as like top 5. And I'm wondering what they saw, whether it's just, some of the stuff I saw in Santa Cruz where it's that shot creation. He's a little slower, but it's like, methodical and he's able to hit tough shots. Like, I don't know where the hell that guy went. But yeah, if you're saying Moody is Moody, and then like, he's like solid, but it's nothing past that.
I think the problem is he doesn't. Gosh, I hate to say anything bad about him because I think he's playing well. Like, he's not doing anything wrong. But when you see him game after game after game, you can almost predict on the floor where he is and then what's going to happen. There was a moment in last night's game, which you haven't seen yet, but they close out on the 3. So he pump fakes and he takes it to the rim. And he, instead of like just putting someone underneath the bucket, you can tell he's like, oh no, I don't want to get my shot blocked. And so he like does a jump stop, and then it's pump fake. Thankfully he got fouled, but it was just like one of those moments where it's like, if you make that quick decision, you might have an opportunity to dunk, but he thought about it. He lost that ability. And then it became, Moody with the ball and no place to go and nothing to do, but he got fouled. But it was like, I was like, that's the stuff that I probably drives the team a little bit crazy. But then when you see him, when he has the time to get his shot, it looks great. It looks like it's going in every single time, but it's the same stuff that he's had for the last couple of years that people get frustrated with him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you think? So you've almost finished the Clippers game. Ben was on with me last week, and that was before we recorded before the Clippers game. but they struggle with similar teams. Now, I'm not saying that the Clippers are the Cavs. I think the Cavs are at a different level. The Cavs and the Celtics are the two best teams that we've played. But the Clippers themselves have been kind of the thorn in the Warriors' side the last couple years. And the only thing that I can figure out is offensively they slow the ball down, so they make the game slower for the Warriors, so the Warriors cannot get out and run like they want to do. And defensively, they're just long, and they can cause some troubles for the Warriors because the Warriors are not a very tall team. We've seen James Harden for years and years and years now. Norman Powell is shooting out of his mind, and there were moments in the game that you're still on where I was like, he's the only guy I'm scared of. Why is he the one open at the end of this rotation? But yeah, what do you think about that? Like, why do the Warriors have so many issues with this team?
I think there's like a similarity between Boston, the Cavs, and the Clippers, which you kind of mentioned. They're long, but they're not just long. They have they have a really long wingspan. Like I think of Derek Jones Jr., I think of Chris Dunn. Like this isn't just like, height wise, they're taller. It's like wingspan wise. Like they're really long. So they have a lot of deflections. That's something I'm noticing while I'm watching this game is like, it seems like every single pass is getting deflected and it's like halting the offense, like this easy flowing movement offense that the Warriors are so capable of doing. But like when everything keeps getting deflected just a little bit, it throws everything off. And even if they retain the deflection, it's just a little weird going forward. And man, that Cavs game, I watched it like kind of recently, and like I know you guys probably talked about it on the last podcast, but that was interesting to see them start Okoro on Draymond because they knew that Steph and Dre were going to do pick and roll. And so Okoro would just be able to seamlessly get on Steph. I thought that was really interesting. And I was surprised that, they started GP2. Like, why not just switch, GP2 to do the screen on Steph? Because it was just Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell switch. And that's what you want. But yeah, no, that team's legit, man. That team's legit.
Did you see the Boston Cleveland game at all?
I did not.
That was an interesting one too. Boston, when they make their 3-pointers, they're just so hard to beat because they're just that they can get on runs because of threes, and then they can kill momentum on the other side because of threes. But I was surprised to see Cleveland hang in there with them. Like they just kept coming back. And then Boston pulled away late. They were at home. But like that proved to me that Cleveland, like this is not just schedule or whatever. Like they can play with all of those teams. And it made me sad because at some point, I thought about, I always call, who's the center that I always call Uncle Luke Campbell? Not Mobley, the other guy, Jarrett
Allen.
Jared Allen. I watch him and his ability to actually guards whenever he gets put in the pick and roll. It's like, wow, this is like a thing that allows them to switch and they're so athletic. Like I didn't think that he could do that. So I think they're real. And they don't even have anything really out of the three offensively yet, because Okoro plays kind of like a 4, right? Like his numbers, he's like just a good rebounder and barely gets in double digits in scoring. Imagine if they look for a 3 before the trade deadline who can actually hit some shots. That will be an interesting team. And it's them and Boston and probably New York, I guess. Orlando. There's some good teams in the East, but they're also sort of unproven except for Boston.
Yeah. And I was just thinking from like a Cleveland starting lineup perspective, like they do have 2 guards who can't really play defense in Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And I really do wonder if the Warriors just try it one time with Steph and Buddy, and then you just tell like Wiggs, Draymond, and TJD, like this is very defensive focused from you guys to start this game. Like, of course, Draymond's going to be awesome, but I think that works with Cleveland sometimes because they have Okoro, this amazing point of attack defender, but then they also have these 2 anchors in Mobley and Jared Allen, and Mobley's one of the best, most versatile defenders in the league. And then you just said your little Jarrett spiel. So I wonder if the Warriors can might be able to get away with something like that. If you just have these two high-powered offensive engines and Steph and Buddy, and then you just go defense down the rest of the starting lineup. Just something I thought of when we were there. But yeah.
I'm going to give you an option here. Okay. You can run with the Warriors, this current Warriors team as is, or you lose Kuminga, you lose Moody, you probably have to lose Melton's contract, you probably have to lose GP, and there may be other people that have to be added to this, and you bring back Jimmy Butler. Which of the two scenarios do you like? Stay pat or trade a lot of pieces for somebody like Jimmy?
Stand pat. Nothing. I just don't love the, like, Jimmy's already missed some time to start the year. Like, he's older. He's, he comes alive in the postseason, but I think us not taking advantage of the regular season has kind of been our downfall since we've won the title. And I like taking advantage of the regular season at this current moment. So if it was Jimmy, I'd say stand pat. If it was Giannis, I say do it. So
yeah, I'm with you. I think because where's the line? Like, is Jimmy the line or is he under the line? Like, because again, small sample size, but still 17 games as almost a quarter of the season, and you've been able to see what the Warriors have. Now the Warriors could they sustain another injury? It depends who, but maybe not. Like, if it's one of their top three players,
I was like Draymond, like, Draymond, they need him more than ever right now. Same with Steph, with no Melton. They were able to go 3-0 when Steph was hurt, but that's because they had still all these guards that they were, just throwing in there. But yeah, no, they need everyone they can have right now. And I don't know if I'm convinced. I don't know if I'm convinced that this Warriors team is the top seeded conference right now. I think I am convinced that I don't see them falling below 5 or 6, where I initially had them like slotted in at the 8-9. So it's just I just got to see more, because there's still a few more teams that I feel like would give them trouble. Being like Orlando, I feel like Orlando in the past has given us some trouble. We play them twice a year. They usually take 1, maybe 2 away from us. We haven't seen New York. I mean, the Lakers, they said it's sometimes a split. We haven't seen Phoenix. Just a lot of teams that I feel like we haven't seen, but we've seen some of the top teams, man. We've taken out Oklahoma City, sure, without Chet, but we were missing some guys, and we actually just played them better. Boston missing some guys, so were we, and then Cleveland ran us. But I've really liked what I've seen so far. But
okay, well, out of the 3 teams, because I forgot about OKC, but you're right. OKC, Boston, and Cleveland. Which of those teams did you think was the best team that the Warriors have played?
I think Cleveland was the best team that the Warriors have played so far, just because Boston was missing Jaylen Brown, and of course Kristaps, and then on OKC's side, none, Chet going down, and then them having a scramble with bigs again, which is something that they've had to do when Chet went down previously, over a year ago now. So I would say Cleveland, but I mean, nothing to scoff at with those 2 other teams at all. Like, they're right behind them. So, they're right behind them. So
would you put the Warriors in that mix?
No, not in this. I know we've beaten them, and I know I wouldn't put them in that mixed for contending status. I would not. I think OKC is still the better, depending on how long Chet is out for. I forget the timetable. If he's able to make a return, I still like OKC over Golden State for contending. But I mean, the Warriors aren't too far behind. It's tough, man. This is still like something that I'm not really used to seeing, that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around, with this like kind of lack of a traditional second best player on a championship team, So I don't think they're in that echelon of contending, but I don't think they are crazily far behind. I think they are probably wherever Phoenix is, Phoenix has lost a lot of games since KD went down, but they were looking really good before KD went down. I would put us wherever, that mix is. Maybe that's with the Lakers as well, when the Lakers are like the 3 or 4 seed right now. I think Houston will fall at some point. I think they're up here with us as well, but I think they will fall. But yeah. What do you think?
All right. I think the 2022 team has just been on my mind as I watch these guys play. And who are we missing from that 2022 team? Well, we're missing Clay. We're missing Jordan.
But we didn't even have Clay until like February, right?
Yeah. We're missing Jordan. And they don't have somebody like him. Like he was an X factor.
Like Buddy's the closest thing, right? Or Buddy, are you giving Buddy Clay?
I was looking at Buddy's numbers today. It's like half of Jordan's numbers.
Really?
He's like 12 points a game, and Jordan in the beginning of the season, he was like over 20 something.
Yeah, he is not Jordan then. I didn't realize it was that low. I thought he was, because he's given us like 30 this year. I didn't think it was going to be
the problem is that because they have so many guys, Buddy's also not playing very many minutes, and Jordan was playing like 35 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
But like I know a lot of people are like trying to put this comparison on, different teams, good Warriors teams. The 2022 strategy and blueprint is the way to go, because that was utilizing Steph and putting the right pieces around him. Like last night's game, which you didn't see, I think he took like 12 shots and he was just he was in creation mode. Some of that is because Atlanta just can't shoot, so the Warriors were just getting rebounds and running. But there was also, and they also don't have like that one, though Dyson Daniels was trying, like he was, Dyson Daniels has been a fantastic defender this year. And maybe that was also the reason why Steph wasn't really going at it. He picked up a lot of garbage points at the end, but he's got so many options that it feels like he's trusting of them right now. So like a Buddy, like when Buddy's in the game, it almost feels like Steph's whole thing is like, all right, how can I find a way to get Buddy the ball where it's like a crazy shot and the fans can go nuts? Like that seems like part of his what he's trying to do. But when Kuminga's in the game, he's trying to get Kuminga stuff. Draymond too. Like it's almost like their role in some of these games when they kind of know that it doesn't have to be all Steph. They're really trying to get these other guys involved. But then there are games like the Boston game, the OKC game, where it's like Steph, or the Dallas game. It's like Steph needs to take us to the promised land, and we just need to rebound and play defense for him. So it's been interesting to see. But that 2022 season is kind of the blueprint, and I like that blueprint because they had pieces around him, and he was clearly the best player. But then after that, we were like, can you do that again, or do you need Paul George, who the Warriors really wanted? Do you need Lauri Markkanen, who people believe that the Warriors need? Do you need that second scorer, which we talked about all of last year? So it's kind of interesting that this year's team is still successful in the absence of those other things that we're saying that they need. And so some of it to me is like, okay, what wheel is going to fall off and then expose the true problem? Like, because sometimes you watch, you're like, wow, this thing is like working really well, and then one thing goes wrong and you're like, oh, that's the whole thing that kept it together and it just unraveled. I don't know if it's Melton. It could be Melton. That could be like a big deal for them. But injuries to Draymond or Steph would definitely unravel them. Wiggs, if the back acts up or if something else goes on, that could be it. But maybe that's why Kerr's just playing so many people, because he's like, we need to have everybody ready at any time. And these guys, I don't want them sitting on the bench and not playing. Even my guy Guy Santos got in the game last night.
Oh, I need to go watch it then.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some WNBA here.
Valks Valley.
All right. So the WNBA held their draft lottery. Before we get there, I asked Ben this question on the last show, and I was interested in your answer. Is Caitlin Clark the most important person in basketball right now?
Oh, wow. Yeah, probably.
So over
Would it-
over LeBron, over Anthony Edwards, over
Oh, for sure over Ed. Like I honestly on Steph here and poor. I'm not saying he's as good as them, but you can clearly see the draw for Caitlin Clark that it reaches those levels of stardom. So she is not as good as Steph or LeBron, but her reach in terms of viewership and fans, like yeah, she's up there. I would probably give her number one because Steph and LeBron have set the blueprint, but she's setting the blueprint right now. That's why I think she is over them.
Yeah, and it just because we were talking about her popularity and why it's as insane as it is, and why she goes and plays golf and just gets mobbed by fans, and I don't know, it's insane. She's a really really good basketball player. She's what did she call herself? Ponytail Pete Maverick. Uh, and but like how do you go from the stage of the women's tournament to all of a sudden she's like a celebrity? Like it's just insane how quickly she rose to get to this level.
Yeah, I'll say though, she's probably had like 3 years of dealing with this, like since that game against LSU where they beat them in the Natty. Like I think that since then is where I felt like she became more of a household name. So she's been having to deal with this for a couple of years, even before the WNBA. But yeah, she is, incredible, and it's only going to continue. So,
Okay, so the WNBA, the draft lottery happened. Dallas gets the first pick. The Sparks get the second pick for the second year in a row. This is the Paige Becker's draft here, and depending on what LA wants to do, if they want to bring in another front court player, Kiki Iriafen, is that the pronunciation?
if
I think you froze. I didn't even hear what you said.
Iria Fenn,
Yeah, Iriafen.
yeah, it was like we were saying Iriafen for the past like couple of years, but I guess her and her family finally decided to like
Tell people.
correct us on pronunciation. It's Iriafen, accent on like the fen as opposed to the Iriafen. It's Iriafen.
So those would generally be the top two players unless the Sparks feel like they need a guard, and then there are other options. But how do you see that whole thing shaking out to get to where the Valkyries draft?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing that could have happened at the lottery would be if the Sparks got that first pick. It just makes all the sense in the world. The LA team, they are in need of a guard. The Dallas Wings probably need a big to replace some of their outgoing forwards and bigs. Like it would have made sense for Paige to go to LA, Kiki to go to Dallas. And there were actually people after the draft, after the lottery, that like, why didn't they rig it? Like this would have made sense ratings wise. Paige in LA, and I'm like, oh man, I like the WNBA even more after seeing like, that. I don't think stuff like this is rigged, but if she did go to the Sparks, it brings up like the questions that people would have had, and I'm glad she's going to, Dallas, because that just solidifies that this is not rigged whatsoever. But yeah, no, everything changes now that Dallas got the first pick. And to be clear, Dallas had the best odds, even though the Sparks had the individual team best odds. Dallas also had a pick swap with Chicago. So you had to basically add Chicago and Dallas's odds for the first pick, which barely got over, the Sparks odds. So it was like it did for all better odds. Anyways, Paige going number one, Kiki going number two to the Dallas Wings made sense. Now that has changed, it does come down to like, okay, at number two, you obviously draft for best player, but I know you listen to the Athletic Women's Basketball Pod.
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina Merchant was saying like, hey, so the Sparks don't have their 2026 first round pick. And when you don't have your first round pick, that no longer means that you're a rebuilding tanking team. That means you got to go win, because if you lose, like you don't even have your own first round pick. So I think that means that, even though Kiki Iriafen Iriafen at 2 makes the most sense. She's the best player. At 2, you always go best player. That might not be the case here for the Sparks. They might have to go get a guard, or they might just trade down. Because if you get Kiki Iriafen, you're at a log jam at the forward with Rickea Jackson, who was awesome. And I think she got first team all rookie. Obviously, Cam Brink, who went down, but we all know she's a stud. De'Erica Hamby won 6th Woman of the Year. No, she did not. I think Tiffany Hayes got it over her, but she was close to winning it. And then there was one more. Oh, Azurá Stevens or something. Like just these 4 awesome front court players that it really wouldn't make sense to put Kiki Iriafen in there with them, even though Kiki is awesome. I still would draft Kiki and get rid of the other 2, get rid of the ones that aren't as good. But yeah, see, if I were the Sparks, I would still draft Kiki because I think she is one of those talents where you look at some of the best players in the game outside of Caitlin, like the top 4 MVP go-getters was like Asia, was like Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier. What do they all have in common? They're power forwards who have a mid-range game, who are strong, athletic, two-way. Like that's what Kiki Iriafen's I think that it is. And so for me, it does not make sense for them to skip out on that talent. But also when you factor in the 2026 no first round pick, like I could see both ways where they might want to trade down. So I think that's where the Valkyries could come into play. Like a few things need to happen, whether it be like, I've been pitching like the expansion draft happens, right? And then you have the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx, which is loads of talent on their roster that they only get to protect 6. And what if the Valkyries were like, hey, Minnesota Lynx, we know that, when it comes down to protecting your 6, you're going to leave one of these 2 players available, being Alyssa Peely, your number 6 pick in last year's draft, or Diamond Miller, your number 2 pick in the 2 years ago
Previous draft.
and the one before that. So it's like, you're going to have to, I've already crunched, the players, the numbers, like these are one of the 2 players you're going to leave unprotected, and we're going to select one of them. So would you rather us select one of them, or would you rather us just give us your first round pick? I want to have people on this podcast to run that idea by and see if that's even feasible, if that even makes sense. But to me, it's like, okay, we won't take one of them. You guys give us I think they have maybe like the 11th pick in the draft. Like it's a very low first. But then maybe it's packaging 4 and 11 for 2. Like, does that get you up there? Maybe 4, 11 in our second round pick to get up to 2. Because I do think Kiki Iriafen being the face of the Valkyries, going to Stanford for 3 years, coming back to the Bay Area, like all that makes sense. If not, there's a ton of players that I could just rattle off of who could be at the 4.
Or similarly, what you could do, and this is in the same vein, like if the Warriors draft in the expansion draft, if there's an option to grab some player and you tell the Sparks, hey, is there anybody is open, who's unprotected that you like? Because we could draft this player for you, and then that could be in a deal to move up to get your spot. Like I'm sure those discussions could be ongoing as well. So there's little interesting ideas and creative things that you can do. And I'm at, I don't know, I don't know how Joe is going to think about this, but I know he wants to win pretty much immediately. And I don't think, as just in my viewing of the WNBA for the last 2 years, I don't think you're going to win unless you have a really good post player as well as a really good guard. Because we saw how Indiana played in the beginning, and it wasn't until Boston and Caitlin figured it out that they took off. When they were not on the same page, they were losing every single game.
Yeah.
And so the WNBA is still, I think they lean a little heavier towards the post play because you don't have it's not the NBA where you have these wildly athletic guards who are, just able to sidestep threes. And then also you can't go out too far on them because they'll just drive and dunk. The game is still a little more strategically about the post game in the WNBA. So I think you need both. So if they are able to get a Kiki, then they're going to have to figure out how to get a guard if they want to win, that early. Because I don't think you can. I think you need to have dominant players at both positions.
Yeah, and I'm really like, again, this is my probably second season of watching the WNBA, but this is my first season of really diving into women's college basketball outside of the tournament. Like, I'm watching as many games as I can, specifically for like a draft profile. And I'm really interested to see what happens to some of the back end first round talent or contents, because I think there's a lot of viable players that could be good options in the early second or in the late first. That because in regular WNBA drafts, like end of the first round, it doesn't shock people that those players might not be on a WNBA roster their second year. and second round pick, you might not even make it in the roster outside of training camp. At third round, you're just there for training camp. You're just there to like basically be like a practice squad. So I'm interested to see. I think there is, I think draft classes are getting deeper as we continue to show that the the WNBA is a viable path of a career, that maybe more, kids growing up are like, hey, I want to be a WNBA player. And like, it's actually like, I'll make a lot of money. Like, I think that as that continues to happen, we're going to see more and more really good draft classes, because, they're putting that as their focus. Like, our top recruit for Arizona, like 2 years ago, Zeke Najee's little sister, Maya Najee, she was like the number 6 prospect. And last year she retired in college to go pursue some really smart major, like some brain surgery. Like, go get it. But like, if the WNBA was making millions, she wouldn't have done that,
So what a lot of people point to with the international expansion in the NBA is the 92 Dream Team. Like, the 92 Dream Team put basketball on the map in places where maybe it wasn't on the map. And I was kind of wondering what that moment was, or what that moment could be in college basketball, because I don't think it's happened yet. There have been moments, but they didn't have the visibility or the platform. And I kind of thought it was last year's women's college basketball Final Four or tournament or whatever, because it just seemed so much more important in the overall zeitgeist than it had ever been. And I wonder if, sort of what you're saying, like, that kind of created the moment, and now we can kind of look at it, okay, pre Caitlin tournament and now post Caitlin tournament, this thing is just different. And, the CBA, all of that stuff is important. I'm also interested in how much of a leadership position she takes. She's still a rookie, so she's not going to head the players union or anything. It's a predominantly African-American league still. And as a Caucasian player, that, that may sort of limit what she wants to do. Like, there's just politics involved in that, but it's clear she's got some power, and I wonder in which ways she's going to utilize it without coming off a little too much, because I think that is also part of it. Is like, if you're Caitlin, are you saying to the WNBA, all right, come ride my back and we're just going to go? Or if you're Caitlin, are you like, I need to protect Caitlin, I don't want to be the voice or the face of the league. I want to be the voice or the face of me. I think that's going to be an interesting scenario for her.
Yeah, and I don't think she's going to go entirely one way or the other. But I mean, here's already an example of her turning down the Unrivaled thing. The 3x3, the 3-on-3 women's basketball league that Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart are heading. They just came out with rosters. They just came out with the teams, the clubs, the coaches. But there was a report that Caitlin turned it down, and I guess they were going to offer her like equity. So I wonder, how much they were offering, and maybe they left the offer open down the line. Like, if she wants to come in during the middle of the season, like, she has that power, because we know what she's on. Yeah, I wonder if like her, saying no, be is the classic negotiating, like, okay, here's more equity, because I mean, she's, I don't want to talk bad on her. I just am of the belief that the WNBA was headed towards an upward trajectory. She just came along and kicked it up 3 notches and got them somewhere they wouldn't have gotten for another 3 years. But they would have gotten there, is kind of what I'm trying to get at. They were bound to get there. She just sped it up. So, and yeah, that's not talking bad about her at all, actually.
No, it's not. I think you're probably right, because what was my argument all last year, or all this year, the WNBA was not ready for the attention that they were getting. And like you said, it came so quickly. If they had been building for these couple of years, you get your expansion teams in, you get Golden State, you get Portland, Toronto, all of those teams in, then you're bigger. You're sort of, you have more years under your belt. You got the new TV deal, the collective bargaining things all figured out, and then you're like, okay, we're ready. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Caitlin brought them so much more visibility than they were necessarily ready for at this moment.
Yeah, I think
all right.
from quick perspective, just so we can get it on tape, I want to get this on the record. I think the Valkyries should suck for 2 years. I think they should draft and just try to develop Kiki Iriafen, try to develop Sanaya Rivers, try to develop who's another player I like, the woman from Maryland, Cheyenne Sellers, I believe her name is. Develop them for 2 years, because I'm telling you, when 2026 free agency opens, after Toronto and after Portland do their expansion draft, that free agency, so maybe it is only 1 year, but that free agency, everyone's going to be available. And everyone, I think, more than ever, facility like, amenities are starting to become insanely important because of what so many teams don't have, and the Valkyries have it all. So I could see us getting a surplus of talent in 2026, just because there's so many things going for them. It's, brand new. It's, the owner has shown that he's willing to spend. The facilities are top notch. And also it being brand new means you could put your stamp and, be one of the founding, people for this brand new team where your jersey's in the rafters because you were a part of the first championship. I think all that stuff's appealing. So I think in 2026, we are going to have Joe's championship in 5 years is going to, I think it's going to happen. So,
wow. You're calling championship, WNBA championship in the year 2030.
Yeah, at the very latest. I don't know. I think this 2026 thing is legit when everyone's available as a free agent. Because of this, the new media deal and the CBA all being in the same year, like it's gonna be nuts. And yeah, I do think we're gonna get one.
All right, we're gonna skip. We usually do the around the NBA segment. I was gonna ask you a little bit about the Lakers and if you think they're for real, and a little bit about Dalton Connect, but we'll skip that stuff because it's kind of like trying to make up topics just to have them, and I don't.
Well, how about this? Well, here's the topic for around the NBA. What do you think about the new All-Star format?
Oh, actually, that is a really good one. But you know what? We got to play the sound effect now. I have 2 words. It sucks.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
I think Steph helped with this one, unfortunately.
You think this was his idea? Okay, so should we explain the idea? I mean, I guess I understand some of it. And this has been kind of a thing for Shams to kind of just, it's been mostly from his Twitter that I've been reading this. So it's a 4-team tournament format. So 2 games in a semifinals, because you only have 4 teams. Game up to 40, winner advances, and then a final game up to 25. So short games, pickup ball style. How does that change the problem that we currently have where they don't care and they don't play hard?
It doesn't. And I'm surprised I haven't seen this narrative yet, but as someone who watches All-Star Weekend and as someone who watches the Rising Stars Challenge, I'm pretty sure this is exactly what they do for the Rising Stars. And it hasn't changed. And they don't try until the last bucket, then they start playing defense. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. It sucks. It's not addressing the root problem. And I know I've heard a few proposals out there, whether it's tossing money around. I really don't know. Of course, I've heard people even say, do what the MLB does and do the, finals home court advantage. Like the MLB stopped doing that for a reason.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Do you have any type of idea of what they could?
Okay, so Ben and I talked about this last week, and this was off of the idea of why does the NBA Cup, why do these players seem like they care about the NBA Cup is I guess is the way to put it. Some of it is it's probably for the betterment of their jobs to care about it and to pretend that they care about it. You got the unique court stuff, so which probably inflates the importance to the fans a little bit just because it's a little different along with the uniforms. And I said, why don't we start the season, game one or day one of the NBA season? It's not Celtics versus Nuggets or whatever on TNT opening night. It is the All-Star game.
Oh my God.
Because on day one, everyone's healthy. They
Embiid
haven't
would love
played.
a word.
Well, then you just don't pick them. You don't have the like they haven't played in a long time, so they want to play, so they're interested in playing. You hold the All-Star game on night one of the season. It kicks off the season, and then when you get to the normal All-Star break, you could still do all the other stuff, the slam dunk contest and the 3-point shootout and these goofy games they want to do, half court or whatever. Maybe you team up with Unrivaled and get something with Unrivaled there. But the idea of the game, I don't think the game is important unless you put it really early in the season, and it's the only reason they're playing hard is just because they miss playing, and it's almost like a kickoff. It's like a marketing event for the season, right? You're like, hey, we need this season to start off with a bang. We're going to put our All-Star game in, and it's really trying, the NFL is like kicking our butts. How about we do something special in the beginning to get people interested in basketball right away?
Yeah, it would be different. I like the differentness of it. I would be worried about just the product sucking, just because of how I feel like sometimes poor everyone's off just to get a feel for things again, being clan all game. But I mean, it's different, and I like that. How does the NFL get away with doing it like during the playoffs? Right?
They don't
before the
do
Super
anything
Bowl?
anymore. They do a flag football game.
Do they still do it before the Super Bowl, or is it completely
the
after
week
now?
before. I think it's the week before.
Do
But
people
yeah,
watch that? Like, does it have good ratings?
It does better than a lot of the other stuff.
I don't get you
It
people
would
with
be
your stupid ass football, flag football.
It would beat, like, if they went head to head, it would beat whatever the Saturday NBA game is.
That's insane.
So where I got that idea from is my dad, when they had a over 30 baseball league, and it was coming to San Jose, so semi-pro league, and you had to be over 30 years old, and there hadn't been like a league like that in a while, so they got a lot of like ex college and minor league players, and so they're able to create a little bit of notoriety around it. And I remember going to the very first game, which was Saturday night at San Jose Giant Stadium, Municipal Stadium in San Jose, and my dad got to pitch he pitched the first several innings in the game, and one of the Giants' old players at the time, Rick Russell, was there signing autographs for the fans and such. But they kicked off the whole league by having like the All-Star game at Muni, and to kind of set the tone. And that's kind of where I got the idea, was how do you set the tone if you end the season with the finals? And that's the most important thing. How do you kick the thing off? Because, anyway, the All-Star game to me is super flawed, because you're only picking the best players from the first half of the season. The second half of the season doesn't even matter for All-Star reasons. So then why does it matter at all? Like, let's just do it at the beginning, and let's pick the players who had the best season prior. And
just like the All NBA guys.
So, yeah. So anyways, that was my idea. I don't think that they're going to do something like that, because the bigger reason why they don't do that is because if those guys do play hard and they get hurt in the beginning, then it just kills the whole idea. And someone could tear an ACL on the first game of the season, and all the fans would be like, why are we doing this stupid game that doesn't count, ruining a whole season, Because what's the NBA? What's the opener of the season all about? Expectation and the glass is half full because everyone's record is 0-0. So if you kill that immediately because KD hurts his ankle and misses the first 2 months, then you're like, what is this for? This is stupid. So that's why they won't do it. But I think that would make the game the most interesting.
That's the best idea I've heard so far. So,
all righty. We'll be back in 2 weeks. So everyone have a good holiday weekend next week. We'll still have some football with We Want Winners for you on the weekend. Otherwise, that's going to be it from here. So for Bri, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.